A rescuer's phone rang with news that would change the lives of several tiny creatures. Someone had spotted a group of abandoned kittens living alone in a small, empty area with no mother cat in sight. Without hesitation, the rescuer gathered his rescue supplies and headed to the location, knowing that every minute counted for these vulnerable little ones. When he finally arrived at the spot described in the call, the rescuer moved carefully, scanning the area for any sign of movement. At first, he saw nothing, but then a small sound caught his attention. Following it led him to a narrow space between two buildings where 5 tiny kittens huddled together for warmth and safety. The kittens were small, their eyes wide with fear as they noticed the large human approaching them. Their fur was dirty and matted in places, and they looked much thinner than healthy kittens should. The rescuer's heart ached at the sight, but he felt relief that they were still alive and moving. Moving slowly to avoid scaring them further, the rescuer crouched down and extended his hand toward the group. As expected, the kittens scattered at his approach, retreating deeper into their hiding spot. The man didn't chase or grab at them. Instead, he sat quietly nearby and waited. Years of experience had taught him that patience was essential when dealing with frightened animals. After giving them time to settle, the rescuer again slowly moved his hand toward the closest kitten. The tiny gray creature watched him warily but didn't run this time. The rescuer kept his movements gentle and steady as he lightly touched the kitten's head with one finger. Though the kitten flinched slightly, it allowed the touch, which was a promising sign. The man continued these careful interactions, speaking in a soft, soothing voice to help the kittens become comfortable with his presence. Gradually, their fear began to fade. One by one, the kittens allowed him to pet them, their tiny bodies still tense but no longer trembling with terror. The smallest one even leaned into his touch, starved not just for food but for affection as well. While gaining their trust, the rescuer noticed how the kittens' ribs showed through their fur and how their eyes looked slightly sunken, clear signs they hadn't eaten properly for days. He reached into his rescue bag and pulled out a small container of wet kitten food, specially formulated for young cats. The moment he opened it, all 5 kittens perked up, their noses twitching at the smell. He placed small amounts of food on his finger and offered it to the kittens. After a moment of hesitation, hunger won over caution, and they began to lick the food eagerly. Soon, they were eating directly from the container, their tiny tongues working quickly to devour the meal. The rescuer smiled as he watched them eat, knowing that this simple act was already helping to save their lives. As the kittens ate, the rescuer studied them more closely. They appeared to be about 5 or 6 weeks old enough to eat solid food, but still too young to survive on their own for long. Despite their poor condition, the man could see they were beautiful animals who would grow into healthy cats with proper care. When the food was gone, the kitten seemed more energetic and significantly more trusting. The black and white one even climbed onto the rescuer's leg, looking up with bright eyes that no longer showed fear. This was the perfect time for the man to check each kitten for injuries or obvious health problems. One by one, he gently picked up each kitten for a basic examination. He checked their eyes for cloudiness or discharge, their ears for mites, their gums for color, and their bodies for wounds or parasites. The calico had some fleas, which was common in outdoor kittens. The rescuer knew that these initial checks were just the beginning. The kittens would need proper veterinary care, including tests for common feline diseases, deworming medicine, and eventually vaccinations. But for now, the most important thing was getting them to safety. With the kittens now trusting him enough to be handled, the rescuer prepared to transport them to the rescue center. He lined a small carrier with soft blankets to keep the kittens warm and comfortable during the journey. Then, with gentle hands, he placed each kitten inside. Instead of fighting or trying to escape, the kittens settled into the soft bedding, exhausted from their ordeal and the excitement of being found. The rescue center was quiet when they arrived, which was good for the nervous kittens. The staff welcomed the new arrivals with the efficiency that comes from handling many similar cases. The intake process began immediately, weighing each kitten, recording their approximate age, noting their conditions, and setting up a care plan. The vet explained that the kittens would need special feeding schedules to help them gain weight safely. Suddenly, increasing food for starving animals can cause health problems, so they would start with small, frequent meals and gradually increase the amounts. They would also need medication for the fleas and for the respiratory infection, plus general preventive care. The kittens explored their new environment with growing confidence. The black and white one immediately found a toy mouse and began batting it around, while the calico discovered the joy of a scratching post. Even the small kitten, despite not feeling well, showed interest in a dangling feather toy. These were all good signs that the kittens, despite their rough start, still had the playful nature that would help them bond with humans and eventually find homes. Before leaving, the rescuer spent a few more minutes with the kittens. He had formed a special connection with them during their rescue, and although he knew they were in good hands, saying goodbye was never easy. He watched as they settled into their new space, already looking more relaxed and secure than they had been just hours earlier in their outdoor hiding place. As the rescuer drove home that evening, he reflected on the day's events. 5 young lives had been saved from almost certain hardship and possible death. While he couldn't help every animal in need, days like this reminded him why he continued this challenging work. Each successful rescue made a difference, not just for the animals involved, but for the people who would eventually welcome these pets into their homes and hearts. Back at the rescue center, the kittens had finished exploring and were now curled up together in a pile of soft blankets, sleeping peacefully. Their bodies, no longer tense with fear or hunger, relaxed into the deep sleep that growing kittens need. Tomorrow would bring more food, more care, and more steps toward their new lives, but for now, they were safe, warm, and together. The following days would be busy ones at the rescue center. The kittens would need regular feeding, medication, and monitoring. They would need to be socialized with humans of different ages and with other animals. They would need to learn to trust, to play appropriately, and to feel secure in human environments. All of this took time and dedication from the center's staff and volunteers. But the transformation of rescue animals is one of the most rewarding aspects of animal welfare work. In just a few weeks, these frightened, skinny kittens would become healthy, playful, and affectionate young cats. Their natural resilience, combined with proper care, would allow them to overcome their difficult start in life. For now, though, the most important step had been taken. They were no longer abandoned, no longer struggling to survive on their own. They had been found, rescued, and given a chance for a better life. In the world of animal rescue, that first step often makes all the difference between tragedy and hope. That transformation from abandoned animal to cherished pet is the miracle that rescuers, veterinarians, shelter workers, and foster families help create every day. It's a testament to what can happen when people care enough to notice suffering and take action to relieve it. For these 5 kittens, that caring had already begun to change everything. The rescue center had a well-established routine for handling cases like these abandoned kittens. Each new arrival was given a full health assessment, treated for immediate concerns, and placed on a recovery plan designed to address their specific needs. For these kittens, the plan included a careful feeding schedule. In the weeks that followed their rescue, the kittens made remarkable progress. Their weights increased steadily, their fur became soft and shiny, and their playful personalities began to emerge more fully. The rescue center made sure to document their journey with photos and videos, showing the dramatic transformation from scared, skinny strays to healthy, happy kittens. These images would help potential adopters understand the importance of rescue work and feel connected to the animals' stories before even meeting them in person. For the rescuer who had first found them, these happy endings brought a deep sense of satisfaction. He had been doing this work for years, saving countless animals from dire situations, but each successful rescue and adoption still filled him with joy. When he received photos of the kittens in their new homes, looking healthy and loved, he felt once again the purpose that drove his work. Those frightened, hungry kittens he had coaxed from their hiding place were now thriving, their hard beginning just a distant memory. This is the cycle of rescue work: finding animals in need, bringing them to safety, healing their bodies, helping them learn to trust, and finally, placing them in loving homes where they can live the full, happy lives they deserve. It's work that requires patience, dedication, resources, and a network of caring individuals, from the person who makes the initial call to report an animal in need, to the rescuers, veterinarians, shelter staff, foster families, and ultimately the adopters who open their hearts and homes. For these 5 kittens, the system worked exactly as it should. Their story had a happy ending because of the compassion and commitment of everyone involved. And while there would always be more animals in need of rescue, more calls to answer, more frightened creatures to coax into safety, each success like this one provided the motivation to continue this essential work. The rescue of these 5 kittens was just one small story in the larger narrative of animal welfare. But for these particular cats and the families who would love them for years to come, it was a story that changed everything. What began as an urgent rescue on one ordinary day rippled outward, touching many lives and creating connections that would last a lifetime.